Alright, let's talk about Officer Frank Tenpenny from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. This guy isn't just any random villain. He's literally the face of corruption in one of the most iconic games ever made. Voiced by the legendary Samuel L. Jackson, Tenpenny serves as the primary antagonist throughout CJ's entire journey back to Los Santos. So who exactly is this guy? Frank Tenpenny is a police officer in the Los Santos Police Department, but calling him a cop is honestly an insult to actual police work. This man is basically running his own criminal empire from inside the LSPD. He's the leader of CRASH, Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums, which sounds official until you realize it's just a cover for his own dirty operations. The genius of Tenpenny's character is how he represents everything wrong with the system. While other GTA villains are just regular criminals, Tenpenny has a badge. He's supposed to protect and serve, but instead, he's out here blackmailing, murdering, and terrorizing the very communities he's meant to help. The man literally opens the game by framing CJ for a murder, and that's just his warm-up act. What makes him so terrifying isn't just his corruption, it's his power. Tenpenny can arrest you, plant evidence, or straight up eliminate you, all while hiding behind his police authority. He's got connections everywhere, from other dirty cops to gang leaders to politicians. Basically, he's untouchable, and he knows it. Throughout San Andreas, Tenpenny treats CJ like his personal errand boy, forcing him to do increasingly dangerous jobs while constantly threatening his friends and family. The psychological manipulation is insane. He's always one step ahead, always has leverage, and always reminds you that he owns you. That's the kind of villain that stays with you long after you finish the game. Let's get real about what makes Frank Tenpenny such a terrifying character. This isn't your typical bad guy wants money situation. Tenpenny is a psychological predator who gets off on control and manipulation. The way he operates shows someone who's been perfecting his craft for years, and it's honestly disturbing how good he is at it. First off, Tenpenny's whole thing is power through fear. He doesn't just threaten people, he makes examples out of them. Remember Officer Pendlebury? Tenpenny straight up murders his own partner just to send a message. That's not just corrupt cop behavior, that's sociopathic. He kills someone who trusted him, someone who worked alongside him, just to maintain his grip on power. The casual way he does it shows this isn't his first rodeo either. What's really messed up is how he uses the system against people. Tenpenny knows exactly how to exploit every weakness in the justice system. He plants evidence, manipulates witnesses, and uses his badge as a weapon. When he frames CJ for Officer Hernandez's murder, he's not just covering his tracks, he's showing CJ that he can destroy his life anytime he wants. That's pure psychological warfare. The man is also incredibly smart about picking his targets. He doesn't go after random people. He specifically targets those who are already marginalized. Gang members, people from the hood, anyone the system already looks down on. He knows these people won't be believed if they speak out against him. It's calculated predation, and it shows how deeply he understands the power dynamics at play. Tenpenny's relationship with his crash unit is basically a masterclass in toxic leadership. He's got Pulaski doing his dirty work while keeping Hernandez in line through intimidation. The way he treats Hernandez is particularly cruel, constantly reminding him that he's trapped, that there's no way out. When Hernandez finally tries to do the right thing, Tenpenny doesn't just kill him, he makes it look like a gang execution to further his own agenda. But here's what really makes him dangerous. He genuinely believes he's untouchable. The arrogance isn't just for show. He's been getting away with this stuff for so long that he thinks he's invincible. During the riots, when everything's falling apart, he's still trying to maintain control. Even when his empire is crumbling, he can't accept that his reign of terror is over. Throughout the game, even when CJ becomes more powerful, Tenpenny still gets under his skin. That's because their relationship was built on trauma from the very beginning. Tenpenny didn't just arrest CJ, he humiliated him, threatened his family, and made him feel powerless. That kind of psychological damage doesn't just go away, even when you're rolling with a crew and taking over territories. This is where Tenpenny's true genius becomes terrifying. He didn't just stumble into power. He systematically built a network of manipulation that turned San Andreas into his personal playground. We're talking about a man who understood that the best way to control chaos is to create it yourself. Tenpenny knew that Grove Street families, Ballas and Vagos, all hated each other, but he took that natural tension and weaponized it. He wasn't just taking bribes from different crews. He was feeding them information about each other's operations. Think about it. When one gang hits another's drug house, who do you think tipped them off? Tenpenny would tell the Ballas about Grove Street movements, then turn around and warn Grove Street about Ballas retaliation. Both sides think they have an inside source, but really they're just dancing to his tune. The trade was his biggest chessboard. Tenpenny wasn't just allowing substances to flow through the hood. He was controlling the supply chain. He'd let certain shipments through while busting others, creating artificial scarcity that drove up prices in desperation. When gangs got desperate, they'd take bigger risks, create more violence, and give him more reasons to crack down. It's a perfect feedback loop where he benefits from both the crime and the response to it. And he used community leaders and legitimate businesses as cover. Remember how he had connections with corrupt politicians and business owners? These weren't just random partnerships. Tenpenny understood that you need clean money to wash dirty money. He probably had deals with legitimate businesses that needed protection from gang violence. Violence that he was secretly orchestrating. So he's getting paid to create problems and getting paid to solve them. The way he manipulated law enforcement is probably his most brilliant move. It wasn't just about having dirty cops on payroll. He created an entire culture of corruption within CRASH. Officers like Pulaski weren't just following orders. They were true believers in Tenpenny's vision. He convinced them that they were the real law in the hood, that the regular system was too weak to handle street crime. By making his corruption feel righteous, he got people to do horrible things while thinking they were heroes. Tenpenny also understood information warfare before it was even a thing. He had informants everywhere, not just criminals, but regular people in the community. Store owners, mechanics, even kids on the street. He'd offer protection in exchange for information, creating a surveillance network that made him basically omniscient in his territory. When CJ comes back to Los Santos, Tenpenny already knows about it before CJ even gets to his mom's house. That's not luck. That's a system. The Green Saber revelation shows how deep his manipulation goes. He didn't just know about the hit on CJ's mom, he probably orchestrated it. Think about the timing. Sweet gets arrested right after the funeral, CJ gets exiled, and suddenly there's a power vacuum in Grove Street territory. That's not coincidence. Tenpenny needed CJ's family out of the picture because they were too unified, too strong. By eliminating the mother and scattering the brothers, he could let the Ballas take over while positioning himself as the power behind the throne. What makes this even more twisted is how he used CJ as an unwitting agent. Every job he forced CJ to do wasn't just about humiliation. It was about eliminating threats to his empire. When he sends CJ to kill witnesses or destroy evidence, he's not just covering his tracks. He's removing people who might upset the balance of power he's carefully constructed. CJ thinks he's being victimized, but really he's being turned into a tool of the same system that destroyed his family. The riots at the end of the game weren't chaos. They were Tenpenny's final play. When everything started falling apart, he tried to burn it all down rather than lose control. The man would literally rather see the city destroyed than see someone else in power. That's not just evil. That's the mindset of someone who's been playing God for so long that he can't imagine a world without him at the center. Here's where things get really dark. Frank Tenpenny isn't just some over-the-top video game villain. Rockstar literally pulled his character from one of the most horrifying police scandals in American history. The scandal concerned widespread criminal activity within the Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums, CRASH, anti-gang unit of the Los Angeles Police Department's Rampart Division, which was subject of the Rampart scandal from 1997. Exposing widespread police corruption within the unit, including involvement in murders, extortion, police brutality, evidence planting, and participating in gang activity. The timing isn't coincidental either. San Andreas came out in 2004, just a few years after the Rampart scandal had fully exploded into public consciousness. More than 70 officers from CRASH were implicated in the scandal, making Rampart one of the most widespread cases of police misconduct in American history. When you realize that the exact same unit name and structure from the real scandal appears in the game, it becomes clear that Tenpenny represents something way more sinister than fiction. The real CRASH units operated exactly like Tenpenny's organization in the game. CRASH was basically an organization that was created like a gang. Their method was to get us off the street, to arrest as many gang members as possible and lock them up. That's what the crash unit was based on. But their theory on the street was more like they're just making money off them. This wasn't just corruption, it was systematic criminal enterprise operating under the cover of law enforcement. But the Rampart scandal was just the tip of the iceberg. The 1990s in Los Angeles were defined by a pattern of police violence that culminated in massive civil unrest. Tenpenny's character represents decades of systemic abuse that communities of color have faced from law enforcement. His manipulation tactics, his control over gang territories, his ability to operate with impunity, these weren't creative liberties, they were documented realities. Some of the more chilling allegations were that officers had murdered or attempted to murder innocent people and planted weapons on them to cover up the crimes. Sound familiar? That's literally what Tenpenny does throughout the game. What makes Tenpenny so effective as a villain is that he embodies the historical reality of how authority has been weaponized against marginalized communities. This goes beyond just corrupt cops. It connects to larger patterns of state violence and systemic oppression. The way he uses his badge to terrorize people, the way he manipulates gang conflicts for his own benefit, the way he operates above the law. These are all tactics that have been used by various forms of authority throughout history. The genius of making him a police officer specifically is that it forces players to confront the uncomfortable reality that sometimes the people meant to protect you are actually your biggest threat. Even his downfall mirrors real-life patterns. The Rampart Crash Police corruption scandal eventually led to LAPD submitting to a federal consent decree and significant reforms. Just like in the game, it took massive public pressure and civil unrest to finally bring accountability. The riots in San Andreas aren't just dramatic storytelling. They're reflecting how communities have historically responded when the system fails them completely. Tenpenny works as the ultimate GTA villain because he represents something that actually exists in the real world. He's not some cartoonish mobster or over-the-top criminal mastermind. He's the embodiment of institutional corruption and abuse of power that has defined American policing for decades. That's what makes him so terrifying and so unforgettable. And we are done. Let me know in the comments what you think of Tenpenny, or which GTA villain you personally find best. Also, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.